And welcome back. City NYC supports leaders across all denominations in church planting and replanting across the New York City area. Our next guest has successfully planted several churches and charter schools across the South Bronx. He's a social justice advocate and also a community organizer who's been nationally recognized for his work among the poor across the city. Joining us now is the Vice President of Church Planting Leadership Development at City, New York City, the Reverend Dr. Michael Carrion. And thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Carrion.
Oh, an honor. Thank you so much for inviting us. Very excited. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying that where you have a healthy church, you have a healthy neighborhood. Agree?
I totally agree with that. And if we're going to see the Bronx revitalized and rising out of the tensions, the challenges, economically, even socially that we're dealing with today, is going to be in the planting of more healthy, vibrant, community-centered churches that are looking to empower the community and those in margin space for sure.
Can you break it down for somebody? Because there's probably that misconception that when we talk about church, we're talking about the brick and mortar building that's there and that's just it. But when we talk about having a church, it's more than just having the brick and mortar worship facility. It's about a whole lot more.
Absolutely. A community church is not just a facility that you attend for 2 hours on Sunday. A community church is in the cracks and crevices of everyday life within the community, within the local businesses, within the activism that's necessary. It's working with the police department, it's working with those that are suffering from ailments in the hospitals, is working with those who are struggling with addiction. So no, I know that the traditional way of looking at church has been you go to a church building and a facility, but that's not the church's only preface and or perspective. A healthy missional church is on the move. It is engaging its community and it's engaging the culture with the gospel and really trying to bring about the transformative work of community and enhancing even the neighborhood.
You've had some great success with these programs. CTC, 50 plus churches planted with help or training from CTC. And then also you've got 800 plus leaders trained. What's been the key in resonating with so many people and seeing these kind of results?
The key has been specific training and bringing into the table practitioners from all over the city. Our organization was founded by Dr. Timothy Keller, who is world-renowned a professor in theology and really an urban guru in planting churches and gospel renewal and having a theological vision for the city. So the key to the success has been engaging a diverse populace from many traditions, because we're trans-denominational. We work with many denominations, and engaging them right where they're at in context, and then empowering them with the tools necessary to better interpret community. Especially coming out of COVID and the last 3 years of pandemic, what is the hermeneutic? What is the translation of our economy? What is the interpretation of how we should deal with people in the community that are still struggling with anxiety and fear about gathering? How do we meet them? How do we love them? How do we care for them? All of our training is based on that, and it's based on the gospel. It's based on coming to, God and just surrendering and seeing him high and lifted up and him transform, not just the building, not just the community, but preferably, hopefully, the city.
Right.
So, yeah, that's been a success, yeah.
We talk about social justice. What does social justice mean to you?
Social justice can take on different definitions. For me, it's seeing the margins in equal footing as those that are in the center of majority culture. Social justice is not just crying for an injustice, but it's seeing proper systemic modifications so that there's no longer educational inequity, there's no longer profiling in Black and brown communities. There is an equilibrium where we become community members together, no matter our economic status, no matter our background, but we come together to look for the health of our community, our people, and preferably our city. So social justice is a cry, and it's the gospel. There is no gospel without justice. Justice is the heart of the gospel. Matter of fact, Jesus protested all the way to the cross so that we would have access to eternal life. That's justice. And so ultimately, seeing people come together and have equal access to what they need as being made in the image of God.
You've got some great work. You're a native of the Bronx. You've been around when the old saying the Bronx was burning and now the Bronx is booming. And you're a part of that boom. What's that like for you to really be a part of that boom, knowing that we used to hear that saying all the time, the Bronx is burning?
Well, I'll tell you that the Bronx is burning. Unfortunately, going back to the 70s, yeah, I grew up in those days. There's still some burning going on in the Bronx. There's still a lot of work to be done, especially amongst our Z generation and our millennials. So the church has a task ahead of it. Society has a task ahead of it. But I'm grateful for seeing the economic growth, seeing how we're moving forward, for the work of Mayor Adams and his intentional partnerships with local churches and community. He's doing great work with Fernando Cabrera out of New Life, his senior advisor. He works closely with City to City and other like network movements to help bring about change and bring about opportunity and shalom. We want shalom in the Bronx. If the Bronx is burning, we want it burning for positivity, for scholars being produced out of our educational districts, for businesses thriving, and for the diversity. We are a borough of many colors, and we're a resilient borough. So to see that booming happening and all of that diversity and myriad of painting, that's what it's about.
You got some great success happening with the Bronx Academy of Promise School, and I wanted you to take an opportunity to share with us a little bit about that and how that's working.
Sure. Well, the BAOP started when we started our church. We had a white paper that we wrote, and we never intended to start a charter school. At the time, it was several activists from the South Bronx gathering, and what we were trying to address was the high percentile of African-American young boys and Latinos that were winding up from the playground to the prison. How do we stop that pipeline from the playground to the prison? Education. And so we got together, we strategized, and we started the Bronx Academy of Promise in the same motif of our church, Promised Land Covenant Church. We planted 10 churches. We're now in the process of breaking ground for our high school. We're waiting for final authorization from our authorizer for that. We just went through a renewal, but for the last 17 years, the Bronx Academy of Promise Charter School has been an anomaly in Mott Haven, producing scholars in one of the poorest congressional districts of the city. And boy, we're taken back at how beautiful the work has been and how powerful. We've got a power-packed faculty, and we're moving forward educating South Bronx kids. And we're seeing that best practice model now be talked about across the nation. So I say this every time we graduate new scholars, every graduation. I say two things. Can any good thing come out of the South Bronx? Yes, a BAOP scholar can. And once you've graduated college, come back to the Bronx and we'll give you a job as a teacher if you want to be a teacher professionally and you empower the kids that are coming out of your neighborhoods. And we recently started hiring people that have graduated from the school and are now members of the faculty educating other South Bronx kids. So we see that full circle of production, and it's really exciting to see all the work that the faculty and the administration are doing there. It's been a dream come true, and as we go into a high school, God willing, we'll see the same success. We'll be educating from pre-K, K through 8, and then from 9 to 12, and then doing hopefully college prep post high school experience with this. So yeah, very grateful for that movement. But it was all part of the mission of how do we empower the Bronx.
Right.
So,
Right.
And what's it like for you, being a person that is born here, 30 years, doing the work, spending time, to be able to see from one to another, to have impact, and then also to be able to transform lives? I mean, what kind of feeling does that give you?
Every time I see a kid graduate out of our charter schools, every time I see a family member get employment, a returning citizen from the Department of Corrections find positive reintegration back into the community, after having served what they need to serve his time. Every time I see a person get off drugs in the Bronx, it just proves to me over and over again that there is a God in heaven and he loves us and he's watching us and he cares for the Bronx. So I have seen so much transformative work over the last 20 years, specifically in the Bronx, that if the Lord were to take me home today, I'm good. I've seen miracles, signs, and wonders, and I'm hope to see more as we move forward, and planting churches, planting charter schools, and empowering the Bronx, and particularly the South Bronx.
Yeah, and talk to me about this because when we talk about the numbers weren't looking good. We know the Bronx, of course, number 62 out of 62 when it comes to health. We talk about the issues of unemployment that still continue to plague. A lot of things that still continue to be a challenge for us right here in the Bronx and literally across New York City. How do you keep the fire burning for you to be able to get more people on the bus to say, listen, we have to do something to drive change in our very own community?
Well, our ecclesiology, which is a technical word for saying how we do church, really is community centered and holistic. So, what that means is that when we look at educational inequity, economic depravity, we look at addiction and poverty, these are not just social ills or societal situations, these are theological tensions that the church must wrestle with. So, as I look at the struggles that we deal with every day, and Jesus said, the poor you have with me always, I'm going to be going to glory, but you're going to have to deal with this poverty situation. The church's job is to be the hands, feet, and face and the voice of God in the earth. And as we become more contextual and plant churches that meet the needs of communities, that literally become incarnational and meet families where they are, embrace these immigrants that are coming in from other states, and just show them that there's a place and a people that care for them, and that we want to stand with them and help them integrate into community, and that they'll be all right. And so I think the healthier the church, the more prolific the outcome in our community as the church takes a place to integrate into society. It's being intentionally holistic, intentionally incarnational, but knowing that we cannot do it without community and the heart of the gospel at the center.
Yeah.
And so
And as we're dealing with the challenges right now, how do you assess where we are, and what do you think about where we are right here in New York City as of right now? A lot of issues to deal with. We talk about affordable housing, right? You know, that's pretty huge, and that impacts a lot of people. Give me just a quick overview of how you see things right now in New York City.
Well, I think that the city is in a place of transition still. We are still dealing with the ripple effect and ramifications of the pandemic, shutting down entire industries because of COVID. We're still feeling that affect, number one. Number two, the polarization that's plagued the country. It affects our city. The influx of new people groups coming in and having the economy that's already anemic be touched and moved by this new influx through training and development is absolutely necessary. So I believe that the city, the New York City as a frame, if you will, is in a perfect place to reimagine outcomes, to reimagine workforce development, to reimagine what the church should look like as a people group of many colors. And I think that we've got the right people in office at current. Mayor Adams, Fernando Cabrera. I believe Governor Hochul is doing all that they can to make things happen. Nobody's perfect. There'll be some policies I disagree with them, but I see their best foot forward in dealing with crime, dealing with the immigration issue, dealing with some of the outstanding living situations. I know that the Bronx Borough President is doing a lot of work to that end. Vanessa Gibson, a good friend and a partner with our charter school. And so I have high hopes for the Bronx, high hopes for New York City. We are the city that doesn't sleep. We might have got knocked down by COVID, but we're going to stand up. Jesus is going to hold this up. We're going to move forward. We're going to bounce back from this, especially those in the Bronx. That's what we're made of. I think that it's hard now. I think it's hard now. It's going to get harder, but we're going to rise up on top. That's what I really believe.
Yeah, I definitely can concur with that. Thank you, the Reverend Dr. Michael Carrion, for being with us and sharing, and continue the great work that you're doing, my brother. It's really blessing a lot of people. So glad that we could have you here on the show, and certainly won't be the last time if we could help it.
Thank you. Thank you. So honored and so appreciative of what you're doing. Appreciate it so much.
Hey, man,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you.